It's on his Twitter. Holy shit. So Jamie's in this chat, but he doesn't participate in the other chat. Go figure.
Damn. It's just...
Yes, just roasting.
Fucking intro. Let's just throw some shade. What's up, bitch?
Well, it wouldn't... I mean, it might rain again, so, you know, shade is nice.
Hey, but you know what? I'll give him one of these. First Blood. Let's do a show, man. How you doing, Sugar?
Yeah.
A little confused that the music just kept rolling over.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna say it again. I've probably only been saying it for like a year, but we need like a transition, like Alex and Danny have. That little like 12-second tune is, you know, it's just so abrupt. I know. A 12-second tune, you know, 4 hours of rendering and like I know. Anyhow, let's say hey to some people because it's Friday.
Boss says, "Good morning. We got an Edward home. Hell yes. My baby brother just got back from being deployed. Welcome home, little brother. It's good to have you back in the in God's country." And we already threw a first blood out there for Jamie. I see Stryker, Your Majesty. Ma is in the chat as well. Good morning, Mom. The Fit Life with Danny joins us. Trisha joins us. I see, James just running his damn mouth still. And there's my favorite mean old bald man, Rod Purvis. Ma said, "Nice shirt." Yeah, this one's new. This one just came off the sewing machine yesterday. It's ooh.
Right. Right.
I have a pretty important business lunch later today, so I'm planning on looking this sharp. So, Stryker says maybe a 5-second purr. Stryker's looking for some ASMR in the Firearms Friday. Little bang bang. Right.
Right. So, it's Friday. That's the day we talk about the gun stuff.
It is. And given that we're talking about the gun stuff today, we would be remiss to skip out on talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. There's some news. So everybody remembers Kyle Rittenhouse, the poor young man who went to try and help his community by cleaning up graffiti and then was literally attacked by people throwing flaming dumpsters trying to murder him with everything up to and including an actual firearm.
And a skateboard for some odd reason.
And a skateboard, right? And hey, please believe, a skateboard? Yes, you can kill someone with a skateboard. It is, in fact, a lethal weapon wielded if in that case, right? If you come swinging a freaking skateboard at somebody, it's no different than swinging a 2x4 or any other piece of dimension lumber, and absolutely qualifies as a dangerous weapon, especially for the consideration of the question of whether or not the response was legal armed self-defense. You do have the right not only to keep and bear arms, but to defend your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So what's going on now is Kyle has become something of a right-wing influencer. There has been some money coming in. You know, he's done interviews and stuff. He's making a little bit of money here and there. But now these far left activist groups are funding lawsuits to go after Kyle. And let's be real, these lawsuits are insane. They're absolutely ludicrous. And they're not designed to win and and actually cause any harm to Kyle as a matter of course in the legal process through a positive outcome for the plaintiff. Rather, what's going on is these left-wing outlets are funding these lawsuits in order to force Kyle into just going broke funding his legal defense. And so I want to show you this first story we've got here. Kyle Rittenhouse loses bid to toss out lawsuit by family of slain Kenosha protester. If you attempt to murder someone and they stop you, you don't get to sue them for refusing to be murdered. A judge chose to let this case go forward. A judge looked at a case where an armed assailant with a criminal history of domestic abuse attempted to murder a young man and died for his trouble. And the judge is willing to hear arguments that the case of wrongful death is a reasonable claim. And the judge makes this argument. This is not the stage of a civil case at which a court weighs evidence or decides whether the plaintiff is likely to be able to prove his allegations. Rather, so long as, and this is the key here, the facts alleged by the plaintiff are not fantastic or delusional. If you rob a liquor store with a gun and the owner shoots you dead, and your daddy comes with a lawsuit to sue the liquor store and the owner of the liquor store in a lawful death case, that's delusional and fantastic, even within the confines of the law, because you were engaged in the commission of a felony and your victim refused to be victimized. This right here, the judge says, so long as the facts alleged by the plaintiff are not fantastic or delusional, the court must accept them as true. The facts alleged by the plaintiff are that it was wrongful for Kyle Rittenhouse to defend his own life against a man wielding a weapon with a history of domestic abuse. This judge should be disbarred immediately because he is not an impartial jurist. He is not a professional advocate of the law. He is not an intelligent academician in the practice of the Juris Doctorate. He is, in fact, merely a hyper-partisan political activist. There is no other excuse for this statement in this context.
She. You keep saying he. It's a female judge.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, facts matter, but you know.
Facts do matter. Facts do. You are correct. The truth should matter.
Sorry, you kept saying he, and it was like a needle. Just no, it's not a he. It's a she. It's not a he. It's a she. It's not a he. It's a she.
Well, I suspect that a female judge with opinions like this doesn't have pronouns. They are simply wrong. It is mistaken.
Yes, yeah, and to be clear, you know what they're alleging here is odd that basically there was this whole big conspiracy to harm protesters, that like the cops and the local government and somehow Kyle Rittenhouse were all in on it because you know the people that were lighting shit on fire, they were the victims.
Right.
Like, he went out there with a med kit and a rifle because it was a peaceful protest.
Right. and God, you all saw the image. I'm going to resist the temptation to pull it up and share it with you again. We've done it before. You've seen the image of the reporter with the chyron that says fiery but mostly peaceful protests, and the backdrop behind him. It's not like there's a barrel on fire, right? It's not like a single trash fire or a single dumpster fire.
Buildings on fire.
The world behind him is on fire. It looks like the opening scene from Demolition Man, and it says fiery but mostly peaceful. Those are the protests that Kyle Rittenhouse went to render medical aid, where there was a high and reasonable expectation of the need for such aid to be rendered based on the historical fact pattern of the immediately preceding weeks and months. So this judge, she should be immediately ejected from the bar. Just done.
Yeah, look, the one thing that Alex and Danny actually talk a lot about on their show, the TPS Report, go sub to them on Rumble. So anyhow,
while you're there, sub us.
Right. But they talk about how complicated self-defense, especially if a firearm is involved, is. Because if you, I mean, first of all, your gun is getting confiscated from you. And then, even though the assumption is supposed to be self-defense, especially in stand your ground states, that's not how it's going to be. You're going to have to prove that you used your gun in self-defense. And if somebody died, something like this can happen. Rod says, so they're using the courts as economic warfare. Yeah, like this is civil lawfare is what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Kyle Rittenhouse and we're going to bury him under, I mean, I'd say a minimum. He's probably got legal fees somewhere of $100,000 right now. Minimum. Yeah. And God knows how much he's still paying off from his criminal defense. You know, murder trials ain't cheap either. Okay. And of course, he's got his own lawsuits that he wants to go through where he was slandered in the press. So
now,
basically,
in fairness, the bulk of those defense, I think the bulk of his defense was paid for by crowdsourcing. I don't know that, but sorry.
So basically, you know, it's not just that his life was put in jeopardy. Okay. And I've said before, like, I'm done saying things like, well, what Kyle did wasn't very smart. You know, okay, what Kyle did wasn't very smart. Well, if we'd have had like 3 or 4 more dozen other Kyle Rittenhouses, those protests would have stopped. Okay, the millions of dollars in economic damage and all the harm that was caused by the radical left protesters. Like I said it before, I lived in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. There were no protests there.
Right. And as far as the question of whether or not what he did was smart, let me be very clear on this. An unarmed Kyle Rittenhouse is not alive today.
But Sorry, man.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I didn't mean to break it up like that, but that. Well, okay.
No, look. Okay, I got it back. Okay. An unarmed Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay. So, but even whether or not you think what he did was smart, okay, and I don't, but he was found, he was adjudicated in a court of law. And so now, not only was his life threatened, not only were you told, okay, these protests have to happen, okay, and then we're going to bring murder charges against Kyle, right? And now that he's gone through all that, now we're going to financially cripple him, okay? Now, and while he is being sued, there's also certain things he can't say or talk about in public that might actually help him make enough money to pay for his civil defense.
Right.
But just ask Sargon of Akkad and whoever that Aquila chick was, you don't talk about civil matters that are still under litigation before the case is concluded, because that could blow up in your face in a bad way.
Aquila lost, obviously.
Right. So there's a lot going on here, and so self-defense classes often include courses on how to deal with the legal fallout, and maybe even some of those Second Amendment insurance policies. Mm-hmm. You're familiar? Like, I don't think they should have to exist, okay? I think everything about this is horse shit. However, since this is the world that we live in, maybe, possibly, sign up for some of these Second Amendment civil defense classes, because if Kyle Rittenhouse had Pro 2A lawyers that were licking their chops ready to go to work for him, he'd be in a completely different world. But as it stands now, he's probably just, I mean, literally like tens of thousands in legal fees because it's not considered double jeopardy. Oh, well, we found you not liable in criminal court, but that doesn't mean we can't still find you liable in civil court. And that's a whole separate conversation for, you know, the right and the wrong and the morality up. Excuse me. But yeah. Get the insurance. This is bullshit. And maybe possibly donate to Kyle's, what's the thing called?
Give, Send, Go.
Give, Send, Go. That's right.
And it's Give, Send, Go, like we were talking about a little bit in the show prep. If you remember back to the trucker strikes, the truckers were using GoFundMe to raise money to pay for things like having enough gas in the trucks to let them run so they could use their facilities, so that they had heaters running and all that stuff in cold-ass Canada. And flipping GoFundMe came in defense, and white knighted for the government and stole that money. Just straight came in and stole money from those people. I think eventually the donations were refunded, but shutting it down and stopping the money from going to where it was supposed to go caused irreparable harm to that particular free speech movement. Give, Send, Go was the alternative that everybody fell back on to get money to those protesters to help aid their cause. And I want to get back to something that was mentioned up here. Stryker, Stryker pointed out they're trying to set up precedent for revenge lawsuits for Baby Didn't Do Nothing. And let me show you a little something here. This is from heavy.com, right? And the story ostensibly is about the very important, by the way, criminal records which speak to the character and quality of the three men that Rittenhouse shot. But this headline should just make you violently angry. Criminal records of Rittenhouse victims. Right? Rittenhouse victims. These men were not victims. These men were assailants. Hey, babe. I love you. And it lists the individual criminal records. Like, for example, the one in particular that we're talking about this morning, Huber, his criminal record includes things like domestic abuse. And then I'm going to pop back over to the first article from the New York Post. Right. We generally like the New York Post here because they, of course, gave us the original article that was censored as vis-a-vis the Hunter Biden laptop. But look at this paragraph here. Rittenhouse was 17 when he traveled from Illinois to Kenosha with a semi-automatic rifle and a medical kit in what he claimed was an effort to protect businesses from looters as riots broke over the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Okay, before I get to the rest of this, over what he claimed was an effort to protect, what evidence is there to the contrary? What did he do other than that? That's the obvious thing that he did. He went and provided medical aid and cleaned up businesses that had been damaged by looters. But then it comes down here and it says riots broke out over the police shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man who was left paralyzed from the waist down. Jacob Blake is not a black man who was left paralyzed from the waist down. While that statement is true, it intentionally falsifies the facts. Jacob Blake was a black man who raped his baby mama while she had a temporary restraining order against him because of previous rape and domestic abuse. And when the police were called to intervene, as he had just once again digitally violated the woman and was in the middle of attempting to kidnap her children, when the police arrived to interdict, he attempted to murder them with a knife, and that's when they shot him and paralyzed him from the waist down. Okay, this goes back to the all your martyrs are monsters. Jacob Blake was the figurehead martyr for a riot that saw the city of Kenosha set ablaze. And what they were rioting over is police not doing their job, but in the course of doing their job, being confronted with the threat to their lives by an armed criminal in the midst of committing a serious federal crime, and were forced to use potentially lethal force to defend themselves. Alex is asking if we're going to cover the brace ruling on an upcoming Firearms Friday. We're going to have to. I had thought about talking about it a bit today, but obviously we have spent the show on the Kyle story. So yeah, we're going to have to come back to that one. I think I've run out of steam on this particular bit of rage, but Jacob Blake was paralyzed by the police. Shut up. Jacob Blake was a monster. He didn't get what he deserved. He got what he demanded.
Yeah, he fucked around and found out. I mean, it is what it is. Okay. So go donate to Kyle, basically. Because this could be you. You could find yourself in a self-defense situation with your firearm confiscated, and because that is going to be the first thing they do. Like, they take your gun, whatever your daily carry is. They're going to be like, well, that's going to sit in an evidence locker for the next couple of years. And it will.
Yeah. Rule number 1 on daily carry, own 2.
Yeah, whatever your daily carry is.
Have a backup.
Right, exactly.
All right. So we're going into the weekend. It was Groundhog Day yesterday. Apparently, we're expecting an early spring. I don't expect that it will begin tomorrow. So, keep your warm socks out. Not time to pack them away just yet, but we're getting close. But y'all be safe out there. Don't drive drink.
Sean Stryker says Jacob Blake got an excuse to test out cybernetics.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. If something happens to my hands or feet, I'm gonna be looking into some Terminator shit. I don't want a concealed carry after that. I just want like a magazine that goes in the side of my meat hook.
Yeah, like RoboCop, like literally, like his holster was literally inside his leg. So that was,
yeah.
We didn't even get to any.
And then you got the chick from the the Kingsman. Her feet are just straight up razor blades. All right, so y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you on Monday.